Macho Marona Koi Koi. Welcome into the show, respected guests, bloods of my blood, to the Blood of the Podcast. I am your host, Kyle, better known as KW Dent.
Pante sobre isa se o signotiletis. The night is dark and full of terrors, so let's roll holla!
Oh,
It's
holla, biznitches.
yeah, it's Christina, aka Lady Triple here.
What's up, guys? Welcome in. Thanks for joining us here today. How are you doing today, Triple? How's your quarantine going so far?
Well, I did a lot of work for the podcast today, so it was
Yeah.
nice just to get into the numbers and forget about everything else.
Mhm.
It's all madness all the time here.
Yeah, it sure has been that way. We do hope everybody in the fandom is doing very well. And right off the top of the podcast, we are in quarantine right now. Pretty much everybody, all of our listeners, I guess pretty much if you can, stay home, stay safe. Let those out in the front line do the work that they do need to do. And a major thank you. We have many people out in the fandom who are working in the front lines, whether that's healthcare, working in the military, truck drivers, working in grocery stores, things like that. Thank you guys for everything that you're doing for all of us right now. We're just trying to stay out of the way so that we can get out of this and move forward together as a nation, as a world. Really, we're all really going through this, like I said. So I do hope everybody is safe, happy, and healthy. Stay home if you can. But today we are here to talk about A Song of Madness. We've got our round 3 coverage here. We're moving through the tournament, so we've got some really interesting matchups here today. Anything else to add here in our intro, Christina, or do you want to just jump on in?
Yeah, I think we can just jump on in to our first round, which is Arya Stark versus Eddard Stark. We had a total of 2,925 votes. The margin here was 11 votes determined
11
this.
votes. 11 votes. I do have 11 Twitter accounts, so this could have just been me voting here. But you know what? It wouldn't have been, because I would have voted for Eddard in this one. Arya continues to surprise me, certainly. Like I've been saying, I've talked a lot of shit about Arya losing in the past couple rounds, and she hasn't yet. Good for her. I love Arya Stark, so nothing against Arya Stark. Just in the tournament, the confines of the tournament, I thought she would perhaps lose coming into this one. But 11 votes, yeah, this was close. We knew based off of our metrics, right, that it was going to be close. Her previous win margin was 23% versus Eddard's 21%. So, it did slightly favor her, and that's exactly what happened. She slightly won. So that metric did hold up here for her. I believe she came in too with slightly more votes, on average, 9 more votes than Eddard. So this was a close matchup, and it panned out that way for that one. She does move on. She moves on to fight her sister in the next round, Sansa Stark, who we will cover later.
Great. Well, moving on to our tweet region for the match, we have Boom King, first of her name, vote Cersei, which,
That's Cersei.
Yes, so Boom King, first of her name, said, Fingers, I spent many days this month mad at you. Now I realize where the real blame lies. All of us. We did this, and now we must all live with ourselves, except the orcs and the guy who nimble dick graphs. They are pure. I'm snacking in shame because we are the monsters.
Yeah, that one was very... I read this one out loud to myself earlier, very like Shakespearean. We are the monsters. Very reminiscent of like Tyrion's season 4. I wish I was the monster you wished I was, or whatever the line is. Peter Dinklage's phenomenal when he says it. But we did then move on to our support staff. We had Sandor Clegane versus Podrick Payne, and Sandor was able to capture this one, which is what I personally expected. We had 2,070 votes in this one. Sandor got 1,327 of them, so that was 64.1% of the vote. His previous win margin was 40% against Podrick's 16%. So, he was also our we expected this. He was our favorite one coming to this matchup, right?
Oh, definitely. He's just he's got a lot of power this round. I think he could go on to win the bracket possibly,
Yeah,
or not the bracket, but at least the support staff.
I think
Um,
he could really win the support staff. Yeah, I think he has a good shot at winning the support staff bracket. And, I mean, to come in with a 40% win margin, and he held up to that, Podrick had a much lower win margin, 16%. So, we have seen, we'll go into some of the differences we've seen, but this one definitely held up. His new win margin didn't even drop too much. So he went from 40 to 34%. So I think Sandor has a pretty strong showing, expected showing, coming up here. We'll see how he does through the rest of this. He is going up against Mira Reed, who again we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. But our tweet regent on this one was the Close the Door podcast at Door Podcast, who tweeted, based on who we'd rather be in quarantine with, it's obviously Pod. Sander would eat all of our food and drink and all of our booze. Pod, on the other hand, is literally trained to run errands, which I thought that one was phenomenal. Right now, having somebody who could run errands for you would be pretty great. So I think we all need a Podrick.
yeah, same. I mean, I've been hoarding stuff for a while. I mean, we got booze and yeah, just thinking of someone trying to drink all my booze right now, I would you don't want to know. You don't want to know what I do. I'm
Yep.
Mel right now, so fire and blood to those that try to steal my booze.
Yeah, we luckily got word, about a day or two earlier before, I'm in Ohio, and we of course have pretty much everything closed now. Our governor, I think, has done a really great job. He's been one of the ones that responded quicker than others. But we did get word about a day or two before that the liquor stores would be closed. So my brother called me and told me, listen, if you want to go get stuff, you should go now. So we're stocked up for the moment. We'll see how long it lasts. I have to have enough to at least get me through a Song of Madness. After that, it's whatever. But we have to get through the madness here. If I had
You
a
don't want
Podrick, I would
you
have
don't
voted.
want to meet sober Christina or
No.
sober Lady Triple, whoever she is. You don't want to know her.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, none of y'all do.
Yeah,
Yeah, please send any extras to me.
yep. Amazon Prime them. Uh, in our players round here, we had Alysanne Targaryen versus your daddy, Tywin Lannister. So sad. This was
Oh,
definitely one we were looking at. Alysanne Targaryen. No surprise. Like I would have been so coming into this. This was very close. Looking at the metrics, Tywin was a little bit higher on both his margin and average votes, but he was against Jaqen Hagar in the first round, who he almost lost to, which would have been pretty shocking. Alysanne Targaryen is somewhat. She's a major member of the royal family, right? I mean, Alysanne Targaryen, out of all the Targaryens in the entire line, right? A discussion had about Targaryens a lot is how much should we really enjoy this family, because there are so many that are so horrible, and even the ones who are good are questionable, right? They have questionable things. Alysanne is the really one exception, with potentially Danny or God, whatever. I don't want to get too much into that discussion, but yeah, Alysanne, I would have been shocked if Tywin was able to win this one here. And she won healthily. She got 64.4% of the vote here against Tywin. So she is going to be moving on. And she actually jumped her win margin quite a lot here. So again, she had that really tough matchup against Lyanna Stark, right? So right off the bat, she was in a tough one. So she only had a win margin of 1% coming into this. She now jumps up to 15, so massive, jump forward. She's going to be going against Rhaenyra Targaryen, which is going to be a fun matchup to discuss. We'll discuss that here in a couple minutes, but we've got the two Targaryen queens going at one another. What else do you have to add on your daddy Tywin?
well, if we had a different voting population in another world with
In
people
another
that were more
world,
like me, yeah,
another time.
I definitely voted for Tywin because I think he's just a very impressive character. I love just learning more about him. I
Uh-huh.
mean, if you could just go through his entire life was filled with drama. Like
Yeah.
he was a kid and he was with Aries. He was hand. Do you know he became hand at 21? He's the
Yeah,
youngest hand ever. I love that fact.
I know. Yeah.
Um, he was the youngest hand ever. I think it was 20 or 21. I think it was 21, but maybe I'm just getting that confused with the drinking age. But
You would need to be able to
but
drink if you were Hand of the King. I feel like that's a necessity.
I don't know. Is there a Westerosi drinking age? I think it's
No,
just kind of like,
no, there's
oh
not.
yeah. I don't see the knights really enforcing that.
No.
Um, but let's see. Yeah, I mean, I was upset, but Alicent, it's pretty cool. I'm excited for to see a couple of book characters make it far.
Yeah, yeah, I am too. I'm glad to see Alicent move forward. I love Fire and Blood. I know it's getting a little bit more love as we move forward. It's such a phenomenal book. I love the perspective of getting it from like multiple point of views from like maesters or characters in Mushroom's case that have written this down. I think it's really good. R.I.P. Tywin. As much as he's a horrible person, or and he's not a good person, I'm sorry to say, but he is also pivotally interesting to the plot, as we've talked about in our Lannister episodes, and even throughout these previous episodes we've done, where without Tywin you have a completely different A Song of Ice and Fire. So he is definitely a villain you love to hate. We'll see you next year, Tywin. Our tweet regent for this one was from Azor a High Five, who tweeted, "I swear to the gods, if the good Queen Alicent motherfucking Targaryen loses to the likes of this straight up douchebag, I will stress eat a whole container of Chips Ahoy cookies. Don't do it, people. I can't afford the carbs." Which I
I love
agree.
that. I've
Yeah.
been eating Chips Ahoy cookies too.
I have not, but I've been drinking a lot of beer, so I do understand the carbs effect going on in quarantine right now.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I like when people are just kind of relating
Very
it to
relatable.
what they've
Very
got
relatable.
going on. It makes you feel like you're not alone. Thank
Very,
you.
yep. Thank
Zora
you.
high
Very,
five.
very relatable. Azora High Five. All right. Moving on, we then had Warriors. One of our beat downs of the tournament here.
No, this
Brianna,
is the biggest beatdown of the
is this
this
the biggest
round.
one so far?
Yeah, you
This
said it was
round,
going to be
yeah.
Oberyn, but it was not, so you lost.
Aha.
Hehe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, so Brienne versus Loras Tyrell. Brienne captured 88.2% of the vote deep into the tournament here. I mean, look, good matchup. I get it. It's Loras. Brienne's a beloved point of view character. We've made to 4 matchups before I used the word beloved in this episode, so that's a record, I do believe. But yeah, Brienne of Tarth this far into the tournament, getting 88.2% of the votes over that 2,000 vote threshold, 2,153 votes. Really, really good. And she even raised her win margin this late in the tournament. Usually, what we see is that win margins are coming down closer to 50% as time goes on. She went from a previous win margin of 59% all the way up to 68%. So, looking at the metrics, Brienne's going to have she's got a strong outlook going forward. She's going to be against Robb Stark next, which I believe that matchup's going to be coming up here very soon, which we'll discuss it towards the very end of the episode. But yeah, anything else to add on Loris, or do you want to read our tweet regent for this one?
Well, I was gonna say the reason why it went up is because her last foe was Syrio Forel. So she's
True.
such a
Yeah.
strong competitor that she went against Syrio and ended up with 59%, and then she goes with Loris and it just stomps. So she's a powerful, powerful competitor in this
Yeah.
game, which is great. And leads us to our tweet regent, which is the Pat at Patman23. Gosh, I seem to remember a Catelyn chapter where Sir Loras got his flower armored ass handed to him by some tall, powerful opponent. Just who was that? Anyway, vote Brienne of Tarth. Which I think,
Ha.
yes, it was so visceral. She's
Yep.
just meeting her, she's so
Mhm.
relatable. As I don't know, some of her going back into her thoughts, or it can be so relatable, just the way that she thinks about Renly and then eventually Jamie. The way she
Oh
thinks
yeah.
about her childhood and the things that had happened to her, like when she was doing the dance and the boys were making fun of her. I think it's a thing that a lot of people can kind of go back and remember when they were the last ones picked in gym class
Yeah.
and kind of having these unrequited feelings for other people, romantic interests. And I really was touched by that in her chapters. So I think she's so relatable, and we're always rooting for her because she's such an incredible, not even a character, but just a person within this world. And she really is a true knight. And, she just goes by she's got her vows, and her morals are so intact. And I think it's really admirable. And I love her perspectives. I love her chapters. I love Brienne. I love her.
Yeah, I do as well. I'll save a bit for Brianna when we'll talk about her in here just a little bit when we go to Rob as well. So I'll save something just for that one. But I always love pulling Pat Man's tweets, one of our favorite followers on Twitter there. Moving back into big shots here. So we're into our second four, if you will, here. We had this was a big matchup here. Sansa Stark versus Davos Seaworth. This was one we knew we were eyeing coming up that was going to be a major turning point of the tournament, depending who won here. It was Sansa. Sansa took out Davos. So a moment of silence. Davos will not be in the final for the first time in a Song of Madness history. R.I.P. Davos Seaworth. He did not go out without a fight. He was against an admirable opponent in the Queen of the North, Sansa Stark, who, mind you, also got 2,600 votes in this. So this was, I mean, he lost very close, 1%. This was 1%. 1% of the vote. And he got 2,500 votes himself here,
This
right?
was so rough. I was
Yeah,
watching this the whole time, and it was crazy. It's always crazy to me to see how the votes come in because
yeah.
Davos had a healthy lead for a lot of the day, I thought.
He did, yeah.
And then Sansa came in real hot, like in
Yep.
the evening and at night. And
We
I
saw
mean,
this.
the things
Yeah.
I like Sansa, it's just Davos. I mean, it was after last year. I wanted some, justice, but that it's madness. We don't get justice here.
It is, and this is the second match in a row. I guess not in a row for Davis, but last year in the final, he was up big against Sansa's sister Arya. He was up 7% going into the evening of the final, and she stormed back and won. So again, he was up in this one, and Sansa storms back to defeat him. So, and I think that's a little bit of like that Stark effect that we've seen, right? Where the Starks are the heroes of our story, and they get a little nod for that reason. So Sansa does move on, and now so R.A.P. Davos, we love you here. One of my favorite point of view characters, I think everybody's, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy is the moral compass of the story, in so many different ways. But so now we can talk about Arya versus Sansa Stark, which peek behind the curtain is actually currently going on as we're recording. So we are eyeing it. It is close, but so first we'll actually talk about it because it is live, but going into this matchup, if we're looking at their margins, if we're looking at the math, what would you expect off of that, Christina?
Oh, hey, sorry. Just refilling my tea here.
Oh, yeah, that's
I would
priority.
definitely, yeah, I just did some crazy maneuvering to do that, by the way.
It was pretty good.
But
Check out the YouTube
yeah,
gymnastics level shit.
whoop, whoop, whoop. All right. So now that I have my tea, yeah, this is the tea.
That's the T.
Yeah, at the tea.
Sophie would be proud.
Yes, I know. This is the tea. All right. So the tea is that I would think Sansa has this
Yeah.
right now because her average number of votes are way high. I mean, 2157 versus 1424 for Arya.
Yeah.
The win margins are similar though.
Yeah.
We'll have to say they both had close matchups coming into this,
Yeah, but the
of
total votes.
1%, which is actually they're very even when you look at the win margin.
Yeah.
But as far as the average votes, we're the Sansa Stark Defense Squad. Is that what they call themselves? I just don't want
Yeah.
I don't want to be derogatory. Um,
I'm
but
in it, so we're good.
yeah, okay, great.
I'm the king of the Johnsons, man.
I know. I mean, I guess my personal opinion, like I like Sansa. I think she's a great character. I enjoyed all of her chapters. I like her point of view.
Yeah.
I love my Sansa cosplayer girls. They're amazing. I guess like I don't know if I just don't stan hard enough. Either way, this isn't part of it. I've had so much internal reflections about my feelings about her that I'm wondering if I'm like not standing hard enough. But
Um,
regardless, I know we can never stand hard enough. That's the problem.
no, there's no such thing. It's called
But
standing.
I'm wondering where the Sansa Stark defense squad is at because looking at the numbers
Yeah,
right now, the last time we checked was right before we recorded this. It was like
I've got it up. Yeah.
53-47. Yeah, yeah. What are we at?
So it's
53-47.
currently, yeah, Arya is currently up. She's got 53.5% of the vote to 46.5% of the vote. So what, 7%? She's up 7%. We do still have the night, so we're recording. It's about 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. We've got 13 hours left. However, we are 4,700 votes in. It's going to take a pretty big swing. Now, we have seen swings this big. I just said Davos had a 7% swing loss to him, but look, it's not looking great. And I've talked a lot of shit about Arya, about how the numbers don't add up for her, but that continues to not be the case for her. She continues to defy the odds. So we'll see. Maybe by the time you're listening to this, there's been the swing and Arya will have lost. But yeah, right now she is, as of recording, up. So we will see what happens there. Um, Moving into our tweet region for this one, we had it from some Yahoo named Jeff, who tweeted, like a Florida Republican voter in 2000, I voted 3 times for Davos. So always topical. The at Brendan B. Fish. Go check out Nauticast if you haven't. Our next matchup in the support staff, Mira Reed versus Dolores Ed. Mira took this one, although it was quite close. I kind of expected Mira to take this one a little bit more. She only won with 51.7% of the vote, so 1.7% swing essentially between the two of them. She came in with a previous win margin of 50% to 29% for Ed, so a healthy amount more, 21% more. I love Dolores Ed. I'm not talking shit about Dolores Ed, but Mira Reed's a more pivotal character to the story, to as far as in Bran's story. But yeah, this was close, huh? How about that?
I don't, in my opinion, like they were kind of on the same level for me as far as, second seed, kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
beloved fan favorites, at least in this tournament. So I guess I wasn't super surprised that it was, I knew it would
yeah.
be close. I knew it would be close and it would kind of be a little bit of a coin flip there. And I'm glad Mira took it though.
I am too. Yeah, I think like when I think of where they serve in the story, Mira. So of course they're both support characters. That's why they're in the support staff. But Mira's like a more pivotal character to Brand's support staff. She's like right next to him, right? Dolores said he's literally John Squire in A Dance with Dragons, so he is right next to John, but he's more of a comic relief character, which is great. I mean, and he's probably in the story, Dolores Ed is very easily the most consistently funny character in the story. I mean, the amount of Dolores Ed lines you can pull that are quite hilarious is pretty impressive. So, yeah, I think that's part of the reason you see it here. You can pull more quotes by Ed than you can by Mira. Of course, now somebody's going to go pull a whole bunch of Mira quotes and tweet them at me. Chloe, please don't. But yeah, so Mira does move on, and she moves on against Sandor. This is the last match that, as we're recording, is currently going on. So going into it, Sandor has quite a higher amount of average votes, 1405 to 1154, and a higher average win margin, 34% to 27%. So the math would indicate that Sandor is going to pull out against that one, but and additionally, it does look like, so again, this is live vote, spoiler alert, Sandor is currently up pretty heavily in this one, isn't he, Christina?
Yes. Last time I checked, he was.
Yeah, I don't think I think we've seen the last of Mira for this year. She's made a good push into the tournament, and I'm glad that she has, because she's a very interesting character in Bran's story, and there's lots worth analyzing with her. But yeah, so Sandor is up 63.8% of the vote with 13 hours left. That's probably going to be it for Mira Reed, barring an absolutely shocking comeback. But Yeah,
63% is pretty healthy at this point in the
it
game.
is. Yep, it is. Yep. So, Mira, we will see you next year. You made it. I mean, we're talking about round 4 matchups now here. That's very far into the tournament. So, I mean, it's Sweet 16, I believe, right? So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
out of 96 contestants. So, she should be. I think Mira Reed should be happy with that finish, don't you?
Yes,
Sweet 16. Yeah,
absolutely. Yes.
absolutely. And then we did have. I wanted to read this tweet region from Dolores Ed Votes, another one of our breakout accounts from the tournament this year, who tweeted, I would say, in times like these, pessimism is a virtue. When all is darkest, turn to a tulip to tell you the whole truth. Embrace the despair for long enough, and you will learn to laugh at it. Which is perfect. Sounds exactly like something Dolores Ed would say in A Dance with Dragons. So thank you, Dolores Ed Votes, at Dolores
Yes.
Ed 2.
Please keep commenting, Dolores said. We're
Please
sorry
do.
that your watch has ended.
Very sad. And now his watch has ended.
Oh, his watch has ended.
Bye bye. And then we did move on. We had Rhaenyra Targaryen in the players bracket now against Varys. And this one was driving me a little crazy, I'll be completely honest, because Rhaenyra's had a relatively, I don't want to like just say she had an easy path, but she kind of has really. And but this was close. She only got 53.8% of the vote, and it was closer than that throughout the matchup. She was down within the first few hours of the matchup. She ended up getting 1,318 votes to Varys's 1,132. It did drag her margin down from 33% to 21%. So, not a great round for her. I am glad she won this one. I'm kind of torn between whether I'm surprised or not, right? Because Rhaenyra is, a Targaryen queen who, her crown was stolen from her. But at the same time, Varys is a show character who, for many seasons, played a pretty pivotal role in the show, right? I mean, does that surprise you that she won this one, or what do you think?
No, I think people. The thing is like Varys kind of gives you, at least show Varys
Yeah,
gives you, especially at the end, he kind of has, him. It's like what I say with Tyrion. It's like they kind of peaked at Clash,
yeah,
or
yeah,
season 2, and then afterwards, Varys was still doing his thing, but when he joined Dany's service, and then he, in the show spoilers, but he betrayed her in the end. And at least
yeah,
for me, it was again, I'm the Dany Targ defense squad here, but it was kind of, obviously she gave everybody a reason in the end, but it was a little bit premature. He was, just betraying people, and I think that kind of ruined some of his mystique, especially, in the books we think he might be a Blackfire loyalist,
yeah.
which is a lot more interesting to me.
It is.
So I think, there's a lot kind of muddled with Varys where Rhaenyra kind of has a clear story.
That's a good point. And just to touch on Varys, because he is a very interesting character. And so when a Game of Thrones was being written, and this is something if you really go into the study of when George was writing certain things, and I'm not the best person in the world for this, but Varys was uh, the Blackfires are not mentioned until after Varys was originally written, right? The Blackfires are never mentioned until the first Dunk and Egg novella, which was written about during the time that A Clash of Kings would have been written and or published. So, point of this being that Varys' plan with the Blackfire Rebellion wouldn't have actually been planned in George's mind until after Varys was introduced in the narrative. So, exactly what Varys' plan is somewhat retconned even in the main series. And there's nothing wrong with that. Authors can do that. George is a gardener, right? We know this. But when you then also put in that fact that in the novels, we're dealing with a retcon and trying to figure out exactly when and how Varys set up certain plans. And then we combine that with the show where we saw what those plans were when the Blackfires weren't included. It does become very clouded, like you said. Whereas with Rhaenyra, and maybe we'll have a show that comes in and clouds this as well, we know Rhaenyra's story, at least from Fire and Blood, good, bad, or neutral, right? So um, Varys is also kind of a bad guy. He does
Yeah.
bad things,
I
but
think the
yeah,
show just kind of muddled his intentions because at least the last thing of the show, at least what I gathered from it, because I was always one of those people who,
yeah,
going on the theories, going on the subreddits, wondering what Varys is up to, and then in the show he's like, I'm for the realm, right? That's what he keeps
yeah,
saying. But it seems like this very subjective look at it where Book Varys has an agenda that is not for the realm.
yeah. It
For
certainly doesn't.
Varys
It's
or whatever
certain.
the hell he's thinking.
It's for Varys's realm, is what it is. Yeah, it would be nice if it also benefited everybody else in the realm. Is more of what I see from Varys. If it happens to be good for the rest of the realm, that would be great, but not at the expense of my original plan. That's kind of what I see from him. So I'm glad Rhaenyra moves on. Varys tangent, totally happy about a Varys tangent, but we do have an interesting matchup here. We've got two of the greater Targaryen queens, Rhaenyra Targaryen versus Alysanne. So we've got the good queen versus whatever Rhaenyra was. I don't know how to qualify the Dance of the Dragons.
The
Both
last
sides,
of the last of the book
the
characters.
last of our book characters, book only characters. I do believe here. Yeah, um, I think here. So the numbers are kind of one way or another. Alysanne has a higher amount of average votes. Rhaenyra has a higher average win margin. I think Alysanne's going to blow Rhaenyra out of the water, though,
Yeah,
here, right?
me too. I
Yeah.
just think and again, like taking into account when we're looking at win margin, and I do like this year that we're kind of looking at both and then
Yeah.
stepping back and thinking about it because I think that's probably, at least at this point, we have a little bit more solid stats. Again, they'll keep stabilizing, but now we've
Right.
got 2 rounds for everybody at least, which is great. And here I'm looking at it and just, looking at my thought or putting my thoughts to this, I'm seeing, Alysanne, Rhaenyra, I look at it and I go, okay, well, Alysanne would probably win by a lot.
Yeah.
Looking at the votes, she's got more voters behind her. And the win margins, I have to take it into account. Rhaenyra had an easier path, and
Right. Yeah.
Alysanne beat Lyanna
Liana.
Stark, which pulls that margin down. So I will say Alysanne for sure.
Yep. Yep, agreed. You have to, it is tough because we want to look at the numbers and say the numbers tell us this, but you do have to take that step back and say, okay, well, how do we qualify these numbers? Why do they mean what they mean? And, how does a character like Alysanne, who it's one of those characters, right? I mean, yes, there's a tiny, tiny bit of gray area in Alysanne if you really want to get into it, but not nearly as much as if you compare her with Rhaenyra. And I think that's going to shine through. I don't think this vote's going to be particularly close. So,
Yeah,
um,
well,
yeah.
just sorry, one step back for this is kind of why, as I'm a statistical analyst, as an
Yeah.
analyst, you need analysts. And sorry, this might be a larger commentary, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the fact that numbers can seem one way when you read them. And we get this in our news a lot. That's why you should question everything that you read. What are the sources, etc. But the role of an analyst, what Kyle and I are doing, is that we're putting thought behind everything. Like we're calculating everything ourselves and we're thinking about it a lot. So when you look at just the win margin or the votes, there's this and that. But when we're putting our thoughts behind it, we're thinking, why is it like this?
Yeah.
And I think that that's the real power behind everything
Yeah.
that we're
Agreed.
seeing here. Numbers are numbers, but when you look at them, you have to ask yourself what's the story that it's telling and what are the contextual cues and everything like that. I love statistics. It's quantifying the unquantifiable, quantifying behaviors, thoughts, beliefs, everything like that. But the key part of that is to put your brain on it and think of why things are happening the way that
Yeah.
they are.
Totally
So
agree.
that,
That's why this is a fun thought experiment. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely agree. Our tweet regent for this one was from at Salsa Stark. So that's Sansa Snark on a Twitter there, one of our good friends, who tweeted, "I like Varys purely as a driver of the Fagon plot, which is one of my faves in the series. TBH." to be honest, for you Twitter noobs. But my vote unequivocally goes to the Realm's Delight, the half-year queen, the Princess of Dragonstone, and rightful queen of the Seven Kingdoms, Rhaenyra Get Bucked Aegon Targaryen. Agreed. Support the blacks. Go Rhaenyra.
Yep.
Yep. All that good stuff. So thank you for your tweet there. We then did move into our Warriors bracket here. Very interesting one. We had Robb Stark versus one of his mentor figures, Brynden Tully, his uncle. I was interested in how this one would pan out. Did figure Robb Stark would win this one, which he did. He got 55.1% of the votes. That was a 10.2% win margin. Just over 1,400 votes. So kind of median in total votes that Rob got, median to lower end. But I like the way this lined up with his mentor figure in Brynden Tully, who serves in Clash and Storm. Brynden Tully is a very pivotal character in Robb Stark's arc throughout that, Robb and Catelyn's as well. This one was decided by 261 votes. Not surprised Robb won here, but he's got quite a matchup going up here against Brienne next, doesn't he?
I think this is farewell for Robb, but
farewell.
He's a strong competitor.
He
but
is.
Brienne is just.
Brienne's a tournament favorite.
Yeah, I think Brienne will win the Warriors bracket.
I think so too.
I think Robb Stark is just another man she'll have to knock into the dust on her way there.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I really do think, we've talked about a number of different characters that, if it's Dany or Sansa or Arya or some of those big shot characters, Brienne's a big shot herself. The guys even talked about, how they maybe wanted to include her in the big shots bracket, but she's a warrior, right? That's what she is. She's the warrior maid of Tarth, and she's in this warriors bracket. Robb Stark it's good competition, I think. I mean, Robb Stark is a character who George has said he wishes he would have included as a point of view character, has a massive role to play in the earlier books. And, his death really cascades over the rest of the books as well. But that being said, I think Brienne's got the upper hand here. So what I was going to say earlier about Brienne is her point of view in Feast. The really beautiful thing about a lot of the Feast chapters are that they're quite simple. In Brienne's arc specifically, the goal is extraordinarily simple, right? She has to find Sansa Stark. That's the goal. It's not complicated. It's a very simple one-sentence goal. Find Sansa. But what's beautiful about that is actually achieving that is incredibly complicated. And when you put a really simple goal that has complicated ends upon a character like Brienne, it reveals all these different things about her that we get to then see. That's why reading her is so is so emotional, because it pulls back these layers that we then get to see about her, where she's trying to achieve this goal. And she could have ended at any time that she wanted, right? No one's watching her. She could have just left, but she doesn't. And so that perseverance is really fun to read. It, I think, really pulls readers in. And that's why you see her this late in the tournament having such a high average vote amount, 1,872 average votes to Robb Stark's 1,440. She also has a higher average win margin, 68% to 40%. I think Brienne's going to take this one.
Same.
Yep. We then had our tweet regent from our friend, and I don't know how to say their name, Lojatko Muha, which their Twitter handle is @IGelCottonScamp. And they said, I'm going with Robb to watch my cat. He's a good guy and tries to do what's best for his people. And we know he's good with animals. The Blackfish might turn out my cat from River Run in case of a siege to save resources. So that feels like a risk. Potential. Very prudent guy. Beefish. Could be. Always appreciate your cat candor there, Igel. So we then move back into our big shots here. Gosh, these matchups are crazy.
This is the madness for me of the tournament this day.
You take this one away.
All right. Well, Dany's my girl. I love Dany. I made a video for her. She took this in a major way against Jon Snow. 6,369 votes on this, which is the most in our tournament so far. And
Hell,
again,
I,
Daenerys, she did it last time. The vote count is 3,414 votes. Again, her margins aren't big, but her vote count is consistently number one.
yep,
So it's interesting, and this is why you see the relationship. This is why we want to show votes and average win margin because there's a relationship between them. Like Danny's win margin isn't as big as some of the other people, but she's had a tough bracket so far. She
yeah.
started out with Duncan the Tall, then she moved on to Jon Snow. She's slaying giants over here.
She is. I'm so
Yeah,
proud of
me
Danny.
too.
I'm so
I mean,
proud.
Daddy's little dragon over here. I love
I
it. I mean,
yeah,
she's the namesake of the show.
yeah.
Sorry.
I It's been a tough year for Danny
Yeah.
and Danny fans. Like I get it, but I'm so glad
Justice.
to see that people are coming out and voting for her. Look, I love Jon Snow too, but she's had such a tough round. Like her first matchup was Sir Duncan the Tall, literally the fucking perfect knight of the story, and she
Yes.
wrecked him. And then she goes against Jon Snow, the first or second most important point of view character in the story, and she beats him too. I mean, it was close, right? She had 53.6% of the vote, so she doesn't have huge margins, but like you said, she demanded 3,414 votes for her.
Yeah.
So
And John, not he got
she did.
2,909. He almost got 3,000
Oh, just
votes.
almost, yeah.
Yeah, a little short, but and he lost
Just
by
like Kit Harington.
459 votes. Oh, jeez.
Oh, did you catch that?
Yeah.
Huh? Sorry, Kit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's like 5'8" is 3,000 votes.
He
Oops.
just needed to be like 2 inches taller, and he would. No, I'm sorry. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Gosh, it's okay. Um, man, I'm happy that Danny's gotten this kind of support, though. I really am. I think right now, looking at like you said, we're looking at margins and votes, which I'm glad we are because Danny's margin, she only has a 16% average win margin now, but she's got
Yeah.
such a high amount of average votes.
Well, that's the thing is her win margin is, and you have to take into account her bracket has been tough. For
Tough,
her to get 16% after a John and a Dunk, she hasn't had one easy match yet. And I'm surprised. I mean, that's the whole thing. She got 7% on John, where I would think that that would be like kind of a Sansa Davos situation, a
right?
1%, or Arya and Ned situation. So I think Danny is very, very strong this year. I'm surprised because last year she was not. So,
Yeah,
so I'm very, very, very surprised, excited, happy for her. And, maybe it's some kind of, I mean, I'm trying to think of the sentiment here, but it seems like there's some justice. I know I do have to point it out that there was some rudeness going on Twitter. Like
oh,
this
of
match
course there
got
was.
vicious. This
Of
match
course it
got
did.
very vicious.
Of course.
And that's the thing. Let's all be nice to each other. You don't have to
Yes.
be upset if somebody votes differently. I mean, you could be upset. Quotes. I think most people that I see in all of the matches commenting are fine. Anyone who probably listens to this is fine.
Yeah.
Right? But there is definitely some negativity that happens, and that's unfortunate. Hey,
Yeah.
we're all fans here,
Guys, be
so
nice about these fictional
yeah,
characters. It's fun to discuss them. Uh, you don't once you take it personal, just and my message would be just block people if they're taking it to a personal level.
yeah,
These are fictional characters in a fictional tournament. Take it very seriously. Christina and I spend a lot of time putting into this, so obviously we care about it. But yeah, be nice to each other. Um, what did I want to say about Danny? I thought I had one more thing to add. Oh yeah, she moves on against Jamie. So who's a character I do love, but if we look at their metrics here, Danny. So this is what's interesting, right? This is why we're highlighting the average votes. Danny has an average votes of 2,710 versus Jamie with 1,539. So nearly double the average votes, despite the fact that her win margin is exactly half, 16% to Jamie's 32%. However, I'm more inclined to believe that her average votes of nearly, so 2,700, I think that's going to carry her over Jamie, who love Jamie, very interesting character, one of my favorites, but I think Danny's going to win that one.
yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same. I just think that Jamie doesn't have the stand power that Danny has.
Yeah.
And I think the Danny stands, at least I think this year, are passionate right now.
Yep. Which brings us to our tweet region on that one at Obi Nature, who tweeted, "Watching the stands tear each other apart while I sit back. Dot dot dot. Cersei drinking wine. Dot gif," which is perfect. Totally
Yeah.
agree. So we'll see
Yeah,
how that one
I
goes.
love that take. It was kind of
Yeah.
the comic relief I needed in that
Yeah.
thread, because that thread got real serious.
Yeah. No surprise, but yeah, of course we knew it would. Going into support staff here, and we'll maybe burn through a couple of these. We'll see. But we had Melisandre versus Missandei, which was one we had our eyes on here, right? Because coming into this one, we kind of expected Missandei had a lot of average votes coming in and a high win margin. But Melisandre and Christina and I talked actually on the phone just earlier today about this one where it seemed like maybe just being a point of view character weighed more in people's hearts, which is completely fair. Melisandre did end up winning this one by a relatively healthy margin. Christina's got her Mel hair on here tonight. She won by 15.2% win margin. This was one we talked about in the last episode, right? Where the numbers maybe looked like Missandei had the advantage, but we said perhaps this is just a lack of, those numbers stabilizing, and that did appear to be the case. We had 2,100 votes in this matchup, but Mel did take it by a good margin here, huh? How about that?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised looking at the numbers because they worried me, but I'm so happy. I love Mel. Mel's one of my favorite characters, obviously. So I love her. I'm really glad that she took the win here. I really want to
Yeah.
see her move on and do really well in the support staff bracket. And yeah, I was surprised at, the metrics were saying something that scared me a bit, but she did come here, pulled through a healthy win, which I'm grateful for. And also, I think, her win against Missandei really does show that she's, even a little bit more of a power player than you would think.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen her matchups, and it's funny because I just don't. She's winning her matchups pretty well, and I don't think
Yeah.
that she's really faced a big challenge yet.
Yeah. She hasn't. She does have a big challenge coming up. She'll
Mhm.
have Maester Aemon next, who she is again the underdog to. So we'll see if Melisandre can kind of overcome that. So this is an interesting. Well, I guess we'll talk about Aemon further down the line here,
Yeah,
but that'll be an
yeah,
interesting
I,
one
I
to
have
to
some
see.
thoughts
Yeah.
on that one.
Yeah, we'll
So
go into it here in a little bit on Maester Aemon. Our tweet region for this one was Orcs Love Winterfell, one of our faves here, who said, "We orcs hope that Missandei wins, but all the Balrogs came by and threatened terrible things to us if we didn't vote for their cousin, the Lady Balrog Melisandre. Feel free to vote for Missandei. We could not. Officially, we are supporting the Red Woman." Very political there by the orcs of Winterfell. But yeah, they got the better of it here. The Red Woman did move on. Moving into the players bracket, we had an interesting one: Bloodraven versus Marjorie Tyrell. Bloodraven, one of my personal favorites. He did win this one out. 61.3% of the vote. We had about 21, actually just about 2,200 votes in this one. Was curious how this would come out. I keep kind of like not being quite sure what the Bloodraven support's going to look like, but it's looked pretty good so far. Bloodraven's
he
previous, yeah,
demolished her. Do you see
he
this?
did, yes, yeah, he won by 22.6%. Yeah, he did. I think Bloodraven's a player in the players bracket. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh yeah, I'm so excited. I love Bloodraven. I love him as a character. He transcends time. I mean, as far as
Yeah,
importance
yeah, he really
goes.
does.
He's
Yeah,
so important in the main story, in the history. I mean, he's amazing. I love Bloodraven. I love it. He's a schemer. He's the player to me.
he's the
So
player.
this is his bracket to win this year. Let's go, Bloodraven. Sorry, Marjorie. I was really excited about this.
Me too.
And couldn't be happier.
I've done a Bloodraven panel at Ice and FireCon. He's one of these people that if you really go through time, what's fun about him is you can always try and connect things back to, oh, well, maybe that was just Bloodraven like fucking with people, or maybe that was a part of his plot. And obviously, I think it's a literary mechanic by George where obviously not everything is Bloodraven finagling with things, but it's really fun. You have a character that you can point back to and say, okay, how can I connect this to Bloodraven? And usually you can at least come up with a semi-coherent, somewhat semi-coherent theory as to how Bloodraven could be connected to certain things. And a lot of them he probably is. So yeah, super happy Bloodraven moves on myself.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Well, I'll go take the tweet region for this one because it's you.
It's me.
Yes, I would love to speak your tweet.
Speak my
All
tweet.
right. Bloodraven. Aenys Blackfire. I totally won't kill you if you come to the Great Council. I pinky swear. Aenys. Cool. On my way. Bloodraven. Okay, in my defense, I totally didn't think you would fall for that. That was great.
Honestly,
I
honestly,
like that. I think that's how it went, honestly.
seriously, look, I'm not defending Bloodraven killing somebody in cold blood. Don't take that out. Don't hear what I'm not saying, right? But like Aenys, come on, man. Like, be a little bit smart. Like, Bloodraven is known to hate and hunt down Blackfires, and one of them invited you to the capital. This
So
was a bad
don't
idea
trust
from the
the
get go.
players. Don't trust the players, man.
Don't. Yeah, it's right. Don't trust the play. None of the like Olenna,
Maybe
Peter
you
Baelish,
can't hate the
Bloodraven.
player. Yeah, maybe you can't hate the player. You hate the game, but like
That's
definitely
right.
don't trust the player. That's
Yes, yeah, hate the
yeah.
player. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Don't trust the fucking player. Don't trust the game. Don't trust the Game of Thrones. You win or you die, right? So, yeah, he will move on. Just Bloodraven versus Lana Tyrell. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. In our Warriors bracket here, we've got the Stannis Baratheon versus Daemon Blackfire up in your background there, Christina. Stannis wins. I'm honestly surprised. Like Daemon Blackfire, he got a bye and then he happened to make it here, but Stannis got 71.6% of the vote here against him. Good win for Stannis. Stannis has kind of had an easy road too, wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I
Yeah,
would.
he has.
We'll see. He faces Oberyn next time. I think this is it's definitely his biggest challenge yet. So we'll
I
see what
think that one could be.
happens.
I think that one could be close. I don't have a ton
Yeah.
that with Daemon.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
The only
Man,
thing I would say
bored.
about Stannis has had an easy round this year, but in his defense, he's had an exceptionally difficult round in previous years where he's had like Davos relatively early, he's had Sansa relatively early. So you know what? Let's send Davos. He'll be in the Elite Eight, I guess, essentially now, or the top 16. Yeah, he'll be in the top 16 now. Um, and yeah, we'll see how he does against Oberyn. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Did you want to read our tweet region for this? This was a funny one.
Sure, it's Benioff and Weiss.
Breakout account.
Yes, breakout account. Benioff and Weiss, the real Benioff and Weiss.
Yep.
Dan. Dan said, George told us Stannis, at his core, and perhaps more than anyone else, had a mindset of just us, which we took to mean he only cares for himself. So we wrote him that way. David, wait, now that I'm hearing it again, what if George actually said justice? Dan, oh shit. That's really funny.
Yeah, that was a funny one. Yeah, David and Dan. Benioff and Weiss, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps one of the better things to come out of this Song of Madness tournament. That's been a good one. Yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about Stannis again here in a little bit. Coming back to our big shots here, we had the brother matchup, Jaime versus Tyrion. This was an interesting one, right? Two, very big time point of view characters in the novels, also loved in the show. Tons of different mechanics going into this one. Jaime won handedly, 62.5% of the vote. He received 62.5% of the vote. That was a win margin of 25%. Tyrion didn't really come close. This was despite the fact that coming in, Tyrion had a higher average vote margin and an average higher margin of victory. So that being said, because I saw those numbers, we went over them, right, that Tyrion technically had the mathematical advantage. But I think, and we have already talked about this, but there's been more work done on Tyrion where we more understand him as a character who I think what you said last week is starts off very high as a hero and has, retrograded down, whereas Jamie started off as the villain and has retrograded up, right? So they
Mhm.
have very like conflicting storylines, and it's not a surprise to me that Jamie in this day and age on, March 27th, 2020 is the one that you would vote for in this sort of matchup, right?
Yeah, if you took the vote after season 1 and season 2,
Oh, Tyrion,
it would
easy.
be
Yeah,
Tyrion all the way. If you
yeah.
did it after season 3, it might be, and then from I don't even know. I don't even know when the switch happens. Is it?
I
I
think
don't.
it, well, it depends if you're
He's
talking just
still.
show or if you're including the books. Because I think, and I love the way you put it last week, where
Mhm.
they do have completely opposite stories. Where Jamie starts off as literally the villain of, he's the first villain of the story. I guess the others are the prologue villain of the story, but the first real person is Jamie pushing Bran out of the window. Oh, that's the bad guy, right? And then Tyrion is the good guy of the Lannister cause. And George is able to write these characters so good that they have these completely ancillary arcs where Jamie, well, maybe he's better than we thought. Maybe he's done better in his life than we thought. And Tyrion becomes worse, and you think, well, maybe this guy isn't as good as we once
Yeah.
expected. So it's
That's the
really
thing is
interesting.
like.
Yeah,
Well, also I was talking just the other day where I was thinking, when were Jamie's first chapters? They were in A Storm of Swords. So you don't even get Jamie's POV until A
much
Storm
later.
of
Yeah,
Swords,
yeah,
until he's been through shit, to
right.
say the least. Where
Yeah,
Tyrion, you get him from the start and he's, this kind of happy-go-lucky, smooth talker at the beginning. And then when it's really interesting how when Tyrion's faced with shit, he becomes kind of the worst part of himself, whereas Jamie,
gets
it
better.
forces him to be like, yeah, a more honorable man. And maybe it's the influences around them or,
Yeah, that's a
XYZ.
really good point. Yeah. I think it's a really good point because it also then starts with Jamie was given everything for no reason, right? Just because he was who he was. He was given everything. So then when he went through shit and he lost that identity, he becomes better because he's forced to actually become a real person. Whereas Tyrion was given nothing, had taken away, he becomes worse, right?
Well,
So I don't know.
Tyrion
It's
earned it, right? He
yeah.
earned, well, I guess he was given, he was born of privilege, obviously, but he
Yes.
he earned, I guess, where he felt like in his peak in Clash, like he felt like he earned that, and then it was stripped away from his perspective.
Yeah, yes. And to defend that, I do
Hmm.
think Tyrion did earn. Tyrion actually does do certain things that are good for the governing of the realm. He clearly, under the right circumstances, could have been a good governor for the realm. He was born under privilege, but I think what Tyrion does before, so if we're talking about the loss of Jaime's hand and you know Tyrion being sentenced to death by his father as the 2 points of these two characters, Tyrion was better prior to his confliction point than Jaime was, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Those 2 points, though, like studying those 2 points with these two characters is fascinating. This is what I love about the
Yeah,
way.
I know. We're just like,
Yeah,
yes.
I can't
Uh,
help it. It is fascinating just because those.
well, it's reflected here. It's
Yeah,
like we like Jamie. Jamie made the better
yeah,
decisions after facing kind of their pivotal conflict in the
yeah,
story, and it shows in the data here.
yeah. Both connected to Tywin, which is why we talked about that earlier. But
Yes.
we're
Yeah,
talking.
is it
Um,
enough to beat Daenerys? I don't think so.
no, sorry, Jamie. Sorry, bud. I
Yeah.
think that's going to be it for Jamie. Sweet 16 for you this year. A one-time winner of the tournament. So, I mean, he has had his day. Um, I did love this tweet. Sorry, tweet region here from Sam at Amy Gatehouse, who great Twitter follow. Follow them. They've had a lot of really funny tweets in this tournament as well. Breakout account, I
Yeah,
would say.
seriously. I was gonna say they're one of my favorites of the
Yeah, one
entire
of my
tournament.
favorites. I liked this one because, and I just really relate with this one. They said, remember the first time you read these books and you turned the page to see the next chapter title said Jamie? That feeling of excitement you got, the sure knowledge that the next dozen or so pages were going to be extraordinary, and you were never once wrong. Vote Jamie. I
Aww.
love this because I totally agree with it. When I read through these books very quickly the first time. I read all these books in about 6 weeks the first time through, and yeah, when you got to a Jamie chapter, it was exciting and they were good. I mean, like yes, whether you like retrospectively like or just look over them and have different opinions about them, whatever. I think Jamie chapters are all very good. So I don't know. I just love this tweet. So I'm glad you pulled this one, Late Triple. So I appreciated that.
Yeah,
Um,
I could pull a lot of Sams or
yeah, yeah,
Amadeus, but I I chose this one. I could they're great. They're a great account. So thank you for your contributions to the tournament.
yeah. Moving into our support staff here, we had Maester Aemon versus Visenya Targaryen. Aemon's tough. This is what we said last round about Visenya. Sorry, Visenya. But Maester Aemon did take 71.8% of the vote here, so was not close, but was a very low vote total. Only 1,806 total votes. Aemon got 1,297 of those. His win margin stayed pretty consistent here. He's been consistent through the first 2 rounds, or the first 3 rounds here now. He was at 48%, only moved him down here to about 46%. So, yeah, Amon's looking pretty good here. I wasn't particularly surprised that Amon was able to take this one. How about
Oh
yourself?
no, not at all.
Yeah.
I do have to say, so he's going to face Melisandre. I think he's going to lose. And he hasn't had too much stiff competition when
This
you
is
think
gonna be
about
so tough.
Helen Reed and
Yeah, he has. Yeah,
Visenya,
yeah.
and that
Do you
might
think he's
be
gonna lose to Mel?
yeah.
Gosh, I think it could be close.
I guess I just have like that point of view
Yeah,
bias,
we
right?
saw
Like
it. Yeah,
Mel, we saw that. I don't know. I'm a Mel stan though. I do have to
yeah.
say I'm Rohala up in here, so I can't. I don't know what you guys are thinking. I love Amon though. And that's the thing is Amon's the one character I said this last week, but it's like I will vote for Amon all the time until you hit my wall, right?
Uh
Which
huh.
is a character that I stan. And I stan Mel, so bye.
This could be the wall. So I do get that
This
because
is
I
my
agree.
wall. This is my wall. Yeah, for
Amon,
Amon.
Amon is a wall character. Amon will be. Look, Visenya. Everybody he's faced pretty much in the past too. He'll murder everybody until he hits that character that you're like, look, I love Grandpa, but I really love Melisandre or whoever it is, right? This one I'm very curious to see because so Amon does have a higher average vote total. He does have a higher average win margin. I could see Melisandre winning this one though.
I could see her winning it by over 10% for sure. Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
in my
I do.
opinion, but
Yeah.
I think I have rose-colored glasses a little bit.
I could see it. I mean, look, Mel is a point of view character who we also expect to see more of coming, in the coming books. We will not, sadly, will not see more of Aster Amon. He has passed in the books.
I
Yes,
guess
we, yeah,
in the show, in my opinion, in the show, she had the best arc as far
loved
as
it. Yeah,
finishing it, right? Because she, died being a servant, and you really were like, I think people are realizing that she doesn't have this ulterior motive. She really is just doing the best she can, doing the best that she can. She
yeah,
really is. And who doesn't want more than that? And I know,
yeah,
there's some issues with the children and the king's blood, but we won't get into that. Let's
yeah,
get into our tweet regent though.
yeah.
We have Joe Magician at the Joe Magician. An underrated part of Maester Aemon is that when he died, the crew of the Cinnamon Wind dumped his corpse into a barrel of rum. That'll be a fine, spicy Targaryen vintage for whoever drinks it.
Oh yeah.
Never thought about that. I would love some.
I
I
would
would
love
love to
some,
get some of
please.
that on the quarantine. I know
Yeah,
what would happen if you drank it. Would you be just more awesome, more
it's
wise?
maybe this is how you make wildfire. I'm
Straight
sorry.
up.
Oh God, I'm sorry. Yeah, I would love a cup though. Sounds great. We do then move into our players bracket here. We had Elena Tyrell versus Peter Baelish. This was the purple wedding off essentially here with these two. Uh, I was curious how this one would end out. I guess I'm glad. I don't know how to feel about this one, to be honest with you. Elena did take it 66% of the vote to 34% for Peter Baelish. That was a 32% margin. She got 1,672 votes to Peter's 861. She moved her win margin up quite a lot. So she was at 6%. She's now up to 19%. I guess, does this surprise you that she won by this much, or what did you expect from this one?
Gosh, I mean, I knew she was gonna win for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously,
I thought she would win.
Barely won. He barely. Sorry,
Yeah, he
Peter
did.
barely. Peter Baelish
Tire.
barely. Peter Baelish barely won against Shay. So Elena,
Yeah.
obviously. Um, I guess in my opinion, I'm surprised she didn't win by more.
Oh, really? Yeah. I can see that. I really can. This is one of those weird things though where
It's not like a Brienne Loris, like
yeah.
Janice Damon situation, right? This is a little bit more, but I mean, maybe after the show to get it. I mean, 861 people voted for
Yeah.
Peter, so maybe
True.
they're mad about Mance.
I think Diana Riggs did a really good job for Owen. I mean, she's phenomenal. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
she's phenomenal in that role. Um, I think show Olenna is better than book Olenna, and
Oh,
I've
definitely.
said this. I think she's way better. Which kudos to the actress, to Diana Riggs. I mean,
Yeah,
phenomenal.
that's one thing. I mean, I feel that
Yeah,
way about Tywin, honestly.
yeah. I think Charles Dance made him more. So Tywin is supposed to be charismatic, of course, but I do think that Charles Dance is more charismatic than Tywin even is in the books, and that's why people end up liking him more than they're supposed to just respect him. If that makes any sense. And I think it's the same with Diana Riggs and Olenna Tyrell, where she's just not on page very much. She only appears in like 2 or 3 chapters. Like it's not very much that we actually get dialogue from her. She is very good, mind you. She does have these quips that she makes in the books as well. So I'm not trying to downplay her, but um, I like where Olena's like profile is within the fandom. I think it's pretty accurate to who she actually is as a character in the books, even though we don't get to see her quite as much. That being said, I hate to say anything positive about Peter Baelish, but his scheming does make the narrative more interesting than it would be if he weren't there. That's about the most positive thing I'm going to say about him, right? Elena does move on. We talked about Bloodraven earlier. So I guess let's say, who do you think? So I'm just gonna, I'll ask you and then I'll give you my opinion. Bloodraven versus Elena. What do you think?
This one's so tough for me.
Yeah.
I want it to be Bloodraven, but it's really for me, it's the book versus the show effect. And
It's tough. Yeah.
this is the ultimate kind of canon versus show
Yep.
effect showdown to me because I guess my pessimistic side is saying Olena's gonna win it, but I want Bloodraven to win it. I will be voting Bloodraven. I want Bloodraven to win it. The numbers, well, again, the win margins
Yeah.
vote favoring him, and he's had competition. I mean, he beat
Yeah.
Marjorie.
He did.
So I would say, oh, it's so tough. I guess my pessimistic side is saying Olena. I think whoever wins this wins the players bracket for sure.
I think. I think
This
so
is this
too.
decides who wins the players bracket,
Yeah.
and I am so tossed up on this. I want it to be Bloodraven,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Olena might edge out because of Diana Riggs' performance because it was
Man.
unbelievable. It was just
Oh, of
unbelievable.
course. Yeah. Kelly just ordered. Actually, she just got in the mail today a "It Was Me" T-shirt.
Yes,
With
I know. I
it's
want that.
yeah, it's great. Also, just a God, what a phenomenal scene in the show. Like
Hmm. Yeah, she's had very
spectacular.
visceral scenes. Like that scene was very visceral. What
Yes,
do you think?
I do think. I think Bloodraven's gonna win. I do, just because I think when it really comes down to it, when you put these two characters on the same voting sheet, what you're gonna say is, look, Olenna, great player for her house, but Bloodraven is a multi-generational powerhouse who has been involved with plots and schemes dating back to, the Dunk and Egg novellas, which we have, right? I mean, that's canon material in the literature. So I think Bloodraven wins, but look, I could be right. I haven't been right super often this tournament, so I'm kind of worried. I'll be pretty sad if Bloodraven doesn't win this one myself. So I guess we will see. Let's see our tweet region. I'll read our tweet region for this one. It was from the Frey voting block. Walter Frey, the time is nigh, who tweeted, Baelish is a little nothing from nowhere, trying to claim my family's rightful seat as the great house of the Riverlands. A throat slitting's a terrible way to die, but I suppose it's appropriate. Ha! Voting for the sassy hag.
I love how somebody responded that. They're like, I love sassy hag. So good.
That's another great account. So that's what I love about A Song of Madness. These great accounts that come out.
Yeah, I love the personalities. Even it's like people have their own good personalities, and then I love when these amazing people take on these personas. I don't know.
I love it.
There's so much. I love it so much.
Yep. I love it, man. We then had, I believe this is our last matchup of this round here. We had Oberyn Martell versus Aemon the Dragon Knight. I was right about this. Oberyn took this one big time, 77.5% of the vote. Massive victory for round 3 here. But again, only 1,338 total votes to Aemon's 388, a very low number, one of our lower vote totals, again, below that 400 vote threshold, even for a loser, quite low. His win margin stayed actually exactly the same. He was at 54%. Oberyn, that is, was at 54%, now at 54% still. So big win for Oberyn, but he is going to move on. This will be an interesting matchup. Oberyn versus the one true king, Stannis Baratheon. Now Oberyn is the Mandalorian. He's a sexy guy. But I don't know. What do you think? I guess part of me thinks Stannis is such a more pivotal character to the story. I'm still kind of like concerned though that like we've seen Stannis.
I'm scared. This one's
yes, I'm
scared.
I'm scared.
This one's scaring me so much.
I don't know. Should be able to win, right?
Stannis should be able to win. It's that awful at Benioff and Weiss that assumed he was gonna burn Shireen. It's like one thing.
He probably will, but
let's sleep then. Sleep. No, we don't know that. Don't say that. Okay,
hold on. I'm gonna make you say so. In the Winds of Winter, yes or no? Stannis burns Shireen Baratheon. Mayhaps. No. Mayhaps.
Mayhaps. I don't know, but
that is such the ASWAF non-answer version of being a politic. Like, mayhaps. It's gonna happen. I'm sorry. I love Stannis too. The more
it's like the one thing. Come on, he's one true king. I want the Run to King to win this one. Okay.
I think I think he will. I think Stannis will win this one. I'm gonna say I think Stannis wins.
So I think Stannis is gonna win too, but I'm scared. I'm
scared.
One. I don't want to put any money on it. If you know what I mean. I'm
scared too. Stannis. So Stannis did have more votes. His average vote total is 1,468 to Oberyn's 1,300. So decently healthy margin there. He does have a lower average win margin, 41% versus 54% for Oberyn. I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see.
I was gonna say Oberyn's competition has been.
Stannis hasn't been great either.
Oberyn's competition has been Garland Tyrell. Or, you know what I mean? I'm just saying
Yeah.
his win
No.
margin is a little inflated.
Stannis
But
had Corn
granted, like
Caffeine. That's
Stannis had
tougher. Yeah.
Corn, and I would say like Corn's stronger than Aemon and Garland.
Yeah, I would agree.
I
Yeah,
think they're pretty. I would say Stannis has a little bit of an edge on this one.
I think
And I
so.
hope it goes through.
I think so. I did want to read our tweet region here. This is gonna get me all hot and steamy even reading this tweet region. This was from V Daka Sinha, um, who tweeted, "Dorn equals hot, equals sweat, equals water dripping down your eyebrow to form a rivulet down your cheek and keep running down your hot body. More sweat, more water. Vote Dorn, vote hot, vote Oberyn, vote twice." Woo!
Woo!
Tweets got me all hot and bothered.
I love it.
I
I
love
love
that
it. I
shit.
pulled that one. I was like, I was feeling the heat there.
I loved it.
Woo! Thank you. Thank you at V Dakasini. I'm sorry I butchered that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was hot.
Very hot. Yeah.
All right. Well, that leads us into our round 3 leaderboard. We have number 1, Daenerys Targaryen with 2,710 votes. 2, Sansa Stark, 2,157 votes. 3, Brienne of Tarth with 1,873 average votes. 4, Jaime Lannister with 1,539 average votes. And 5, Stannis Baratheon with 1,468 average votes.
King Stannis Baratheon. Now, so let's talk about this top 5 here, at least for a moment. Daenerys is up by 600 votes on average margin of votes. It's a lot. I mean,
Targaryen army. Where were they? I don't know where they were every other year of this tournament, but they're here in 2020, so I'm here for it. I
Danny
love
is
me some
yeah.
Danny.
Danny's looking very strong right now. Again, she is up against the number 4 here, Jaime, who's at 1539, but she's almost got double his amount of votes. So I'm having a tough time believing Danny's not at least going to, make it 1 or 2 rounds further. But yeah, I don't know.
At this
Yeah.
point, it would be. I would just wonder where these voters are going. Are they falling off the earth?
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
don't
feel
know.
like they're going to come back. And the Jaime voters, are they going to get stronger? And I don't
It's
think
going to take a
so.
massive push. It'll
Yeah.
take a massive push, I think. I think Daenerys is going to beat Jaime by a pretty good margin. And I think part of this is, if we look at the end of the show, and we've talked a lot about this, how the show affects how people vote in this tournament too, where you had the end of Daenerys's arc that I think most people within the book, within our community, essentially agree. And you don't have to agree. If you don't agree, that's totally fine. But I think most people are on the side of Daenerys's arc will look somewhat like what happens in the books, but it's going to be so much more intimate and written differently that it will have an extremely different feel, right?
It's going to be completely different.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
By completely different, I mean it's not this all of a sudden 180.
Right,
we're going to see a slow descent, and we're already seeing it. We're already seeing it in the fact, if you want to go to her Daenerys X in A Dance of Dragons, and she's kind of embracing the fire and blood out there.
Yep.
Okay, we get that. And again, you're not having Cersei in the Red Keep. You're probably going to be having Fagon there. It's going to be a completely, and again, I'm not sure the mechanics of, is she going to, are they fighting the others first thing?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that they'll fight the others first and then she'll go for King's Landing if Aegon's there? I mean, I kind of thought it was like a go for Aegon and then fight the others. I don't even know.
My top level thought is I never liked the idea that she fights the others first. I like the idea of Dany first dealing with King's Landing. It makes more sense with where she will land, that she deals with Fagon, with Aegon, and is then in the end game with the others. That makes more sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But that's more of what I think. I think she's going to come and deal with coming home, right? Her entire story. And if you really want to get into the weeds with this, great, phenomenal essay written by at a Rhythmatic on Twitter. One of the hosts of Girls Gone Canon, Eliana, wrote a phenomenal essay about Daenerys Targaryen and how she is this tragic Shakespearean hero. And if you go read that, it deals with a lot of these mechanics about how when Dany comes home, what's it going to look like to somebody whose arc is about she's just looking to come home, and what happens when she comes home and everything she's built towards it's not here. It's not what she thought it was. And I think that's what's going to build into what happens in King's Landing with her either purposefully or accidentally or somewhere in between burning down King's Landing and then dealing with the others and postponing or defeating that threat towards humanity. I think that's more of like where my brain goes when I think about the finale of Daenerys' arc in the books. And I can't wait to read that because when I think about what that could mean, it's phenomenal, right?
Well, that's the thing is like I think George would make it something where it's like, again, even more. And I always make the connection to Breaking Bad, but I'm actually rewatching Breaking Bad, and when you rewatch it, you go, "Wow, I hate Walter White. I hate him. Like he sucks from the beginning." But you don't really see it because you're kind of rooting for him. But the thing is like Dany is made. She's a liberator. She's freeing slaves. She's made good decisions. Like, I'm sorry. I think she has. I don't know if anyone disagrees with me, but like, okay, she crucified the maesters, or sorry, the maesters, the masters. But either way, she crucified the masters, but also it was kind of an eye for an eye thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Not terrible. And I know I've seen all these things on the focus, her quest for justice versus what's right and, et cetera, et cetera. But I think, this could be one of the greatest kind of turns in literature.
Yeah.
Is her, because I mean, I've been following her, and the thing is with the show, it was so cheap that I think that there's a lot of people, and getting back to the stats, like there's a lot of people that might be kind of like, hey, this wasn't right. Homegirl got, this wasn't cool. Let's justice for Dany. And that's the thing is you want to look at it, and maybe if it's bittersweet or a little bit of a gray area. I like the idea of a gray area, and I do like at least that the fandom has so much kind of discord about it, because there's so many different ways to interpret the story, and it's kind of a choose your own adventure about how you feel at the end, right? Like I feel completely differently than other people about Dany and her whole arc, having read the books and watched the show, than somebody else. And we ingested the same material, but it might be more of a reflection about us or how we feel about things or how we connected at the time. I don't know. Either way, very interesting.
I love it. Yeah, I completely agree. That's a great point. Is we have a couple more things we want to go through before we end out the show. But what a great point to kind of like begin to close out on is that this is literature that we're talking about, and the great part about literature or storytelling in general, if it's television or whatever, is that we all ingest it and we all get to believe and feel however we want about it. Like that's nobody can tell you can't feel a certain way about something. Even if I personally disagree with you, and I might strongly disagree with you, it's completely up to you to internalize and and deal with that in your own way. And I think that's the really great part about this story. That's why we're sitting here talking about a tournament based on this fictional series, is because we feel so strongly about these characters in the story. So, and that's why we're here. And I appreciate the Daenerys conversation. So we'll move on here. Beginning to close out, we're looking forward So
Yes.
we're looking down the barrel of the finish line here. Do you want to go over our last sort of rounds coming up here, Christina? If you want
Yeah,
to
so we have a couple of rounds coming up. I just wanted to kind of throw this out. I
yeah.
made this today. I kind of wanted to throw this out to like look at the future. And right now we're at Friday. This might post out Saturday, so don't at me.
Yeah.
But right now we're on Friday. And so right now we've got Arya versus Sansa, Sandor versus Mira. So we've got, Saturday, Sunday, Monday for this round. So this round's going super quick. And
Yep.
then we're going to get into round 5, which is the final,
Eight, Elite
elimination
Eight.
round for the
Yeah.
for the for the 4 categories of brackets. So for big shots, we possibly have Arya slash Sansa versus Danny slash Jamie, which I think this could go to be, either an Arya or Sansa versus Danny. I think Danny's going to beat Jamie. So this was very interesting to me. We've got, possibly Sandor slash Mira versus Melisandre Aemon. I think that might be Sandor slash Melisandre, which is that one's, ooh, that one scares me.
Yeah.
You got Alicent Rhaenyra versus Bloodraven Olenna. Again, I think the Bloodraven Olenna match is going to determine it. Warriors, we got Brienne Robb versus Stannis Oberyn. I think this could go a Brienne Oberyn, Brienne Stannis. Either way, that one's going to be really interesting. So we got some really interesting matches coming up, and we will be here to analyze everything with you.
We will. Yeah. And then our last bit here,
Yeah.
we're gonna make some final predictions. I guess so. Our predictions, and then so what we want and what we think is gonna happen.
Yeah,
Um,
we have our predictions and our
yeah.
champions here.
Yep. I'll go first here. I'll go
Okay.
first on my prediction, what I think and what I want. Right. So in our big shots, so I'll start with big shots. I think this is Danny. I think Danny will win, and I want Danny to win. So I guess I'll do both here. Prediction and champion. Daenerys has the most votes. We've seen she has the most votes cast for, and it's not even close. She's had over 600 more votes cast for her on average per round. I think it's Danny's year. We just spent a lot of time talking about her. I think it's Danny. Support staff. My prediction and champion. I think I both want Sandor because I love the way he's connected to the Stark storyline of Mercy, and I think that's going to play through as well, and he's going to be our champion out of the support staff. In the players, I differ here. This is the one I differ on. What I actually think is going to happen, I think Fire and Blood is a relatively new novel, and I think people are going to vote for Alicent, and that she is going to good Queen Alicent, who I love. I would be totally happy if she does win the players bracket. I think she's going to win that one. My personal, who I would prefer to win, would be Bloodraven. So again, I've done a panel on Bloodraven. He's one of my favorite, sort of secondary to primary characters in the story. That's who I would pick as my final 4. And then my Warriors, I think it's going to be Brienne. So recapping my final 4, who I'm going to predict. So I'm going to pick one of these to predict who my final 4 is going to be. I think it's going to be Daenerys out of the big shots, Sandor out of the support staff, Bloodraven out of the players, and Brienne out of the Warriors. How about yourself?
All right. So as far as what I want to happen in my ideal world, big shots would be Daenerys, support staff would be Mel, players would be Bloodraven, and warriors would be Stannis. And this one was
Stanny.
hard for me because I just love like the stan of Stannis.
Yeah.
But Brienne's this is like a 51-49 thing for me.
Yeah.
So my prediction is that Daenerys is going to take big shots. Sandor is going to take support staff. I think he's just stronger than Melisandre. Unfortunately, I hope she can win it, but I don't think she's going to. Players, I had Olenna just because I'm afraid, but again, this is another 49-51 with Bloodraven, but I think Olenna might pull out on Bloodraven, and it scares me, but I vote Bloodraven, please.
I think Brienne is going to be tough to beat in the Warriors bracket. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us here today. Again, as we close out, just want to make sure that everybody is safe. Stay home if you can. Again, I know we said off the top of the episode, stay home if you can. And guys, have a good one. Thanks.